in the garden today talking about fall interest plants. So come garden with me to find out what you can add to your landscape to bump up your fall interest. Okay, so we're going to start right here with this beautiful Oakleaf Hydrangea. This is what Oakleaf Hydrangeas do. I feel like if they get a little more sun. I have a couple more down at the lower part of the property, which is in a little more shade at this time of the year because the sun is just at a different angle. But this one that gets some more sun, the foliage just goes really pretty orange to burgundy. So you can see here orange. And these leaves over here, the camera's not in the way, a little bit more burgundy. And of course it still has a lot of green. Now this one has not flowered much for us since we planted it a couple of years ago, and I think that's mostly because the deer have eaten it a lot. They eat the buds right off of it in winter, late winter, early spring. But we got one flower, and this would provide some fall interest too because it's just a beautiful dried flower. You could use those in bouquets or dried flower arrangements. And I actually made a pretty fall winter arrangement for my cousin a few Thanksgivings ago using some of these dried hydrangea flowers. So this would be one of my top fall foliage interest plants in the garden. So one plant that I completely forgot to highlight yesterday is the Midnight Sun Weigela. Now you have seen this in other videos because I recently planted this maybe a couple of months ago, so I've talked about it a little bit, but it really does have varying colors of foliage all throughout the season, and if it gets lots of sun in the fall it will go bright red, and you can start to see that happening on some of these leaves down in the bottom there, and the tips are burgundy. So this is a plant that stays small if you don't have a large landscape. Most Weigelas get pretty large, but this one stays 1.5 to 2 feet tall and wide. Starts out green in the spring, and then it rapidly becomes just multicolor throughout the rest of the year, and it really does look pretty in a fall garden because again it has all of those multiple different colors, and when it gets a lot of sun it definitely gets that red tint. So a really pretty plant to add to your gardens to bump up your fall interest. Another plant that looks beautiful at this time of the year is the PJM Rododendrons. Now I don't talk about these a lot, but at this time of the year they do rebloom. So you can have the best of both worlds with the pretty red and orange foliage. And again, if you're getting some sun on here, on your plants, you will get some reblooms. PJMs are a reblooming rhododendron that can get 5 feet tall and wide. You can see just how pretty they look in the fall garden. Now depending on if you are into just straight natives or not, this might be a good interest plant for you because of the beautiful yellow foliage, but also these seed pods. See these interesting seed pods. This is a Caliccanthus, so this is a sweet shrub, and this is just the straight native. So that might be another interesting plant if you like the look of, this one's kind of covered in them. You can see this is another one, beautiful yellow foliage. This one has more seed pods, but not as many as that other one. Got some seed pods there. Seed pods there. We can't do a discussion of interest plants. This is going to be a fall and winter interest plant because this is the Ilex opaka. I've showed this in a previous video. Absolutely covered with berries, and they're starting to go red. The last time you saw this in a video, they were not quite red yet. So the ones here are definitely red. This is a different Ilex opaka with gold fruit. You can see the pretty yellow fruit in here. Oh, the bugs are horrible. The Ilex opaka is a quite large tree, so make sure you have room for it if you're going to incorporate that into your landscape. I do have more red berries to show you. I'm sorry about this. The video seems like it's all over the place because the bugs are just relentless today. So I'm trying to avoid them. Here's one of the Caliccanthus from the back side. Really pretty. Right now we're looking at a berry heavy gold. This is an Ilex verticillata. I also showed this in a previous video. But again, this is great for fall interest if you're looking to have berries. Plants with berries in your garden. This is not going to get as big as the Ilex opaka. This is a 6 to 8 foot tall and wide shrub. You do need a male pollinator. You actually need a male pollinator for all of these hollies. Here's another one. Again, covered in berries. Now, this is interesting because this is a Caliccanthus too. This is called Simply Sensational, which is a proven winner's variety. It still has a pretty yellow foliage, but I don't see any seed pods on this one. See if we can find one closer. Because if you don't have the room for the straight sweet shrub, you might want to go with a smaller growing one like the Simply Sensational. Oh, I do see a seed pod in there, so if you want a Caliccanthus with the seed pods and you don't have room for the big one, this is a smaller growing 4 to 6 footer from proven winners called Simply Sensational. This is called Berry Poppins. I've shared this in a previous video as well. But again, this one is just laden with red berries, which provides great interest at this time of the year. Another plant that kind of glows in the landscape without even trying is this Durvella Kodiak orange. It is more of a yellowy chartreuse color at the moment, although some of the tips are orange tinted, like this one right here. The tip of this branch right here is starking orange. Absolutely beautiful, especially with the blue of the totem pole grasses behind it. Now you do need a little bit of sun. These are sold as a full sun to full shade plant, and they can do very well in a lot of shade, which these are in. But any part of the plant that gets any sun at all during the day at this time of the year gets this brilliant orange. There's 3 of them here, and again, these are sold as a full sun to full shade plant. This is another proven winners variety. It's a 4x4. They can be pruned, almost like a perennial. But again, they provide really, really pretty fall color for your garden. Now let's take a look at these little Henry Itas, because you can see why we plant these in the garden. They do get really pretty flowers in the spring, but the fall foliage is reddish, orange, burgundy, purple. Really, really, really pretty. And they don't get really big, so if you don't have a lot of room, the little Henry Sweet Spire is a really pretty fall foliage shrub. We can't talk about fall interest without going over some grasses. Now, this is a Miscanthus Morning Light. It has its seed heads on. I'd say they're probably about 6 feet tall, and when the light hits them from behind, they really do glow. Yes, Miscanthus are an invasive, non-native, but they kind of have a shape and a form that I find appealing and not a lot of other grasses have. So that's kind of why I like the Miscanthus. So here's another example of an Oakleaf Hydrangea that doesn't get as much sun, and you can see it just doesn't have the gorgeous foliage as the one that is getting more sun at this time of the year. Still pretty, the dried seed heads, flower heads, but again, not quite the foliage show. Of course, there's autumn joy sedum. I think everybody knows that plant. And here's a look at the little Henry sweet spires from the opposite direction. Here's another grass that gets really pretty fall color. This is Ruby Ribbons Panicum. You can see why it's called Ruby Ribbons. Just really pretty foliage. Now, I really don't think of hydrangeas as a fall foliage interest plant. It's not the first thing that comes to mind, but this little quickfire is putting on an autumn show like none of the other hydrangeas are. I mean, it still has some pink on it from the flowers, some browns, but look at the foliage. Burgundy and that fiery orange. So I feel like you have to include some hydrangeas for fall foliage. This is just beautiful. This one might be a little tough to see because I can't get directly up to it, but this is a beautyberry. Beautiful darkening foliage at the tips, pretty pink flowers, but it's these gorgeous purple berries that you really don't see elsewhere in the plant world, at least not that I'm aware of, that you really want this plant for. This has beautiful, beautiful purple berries. So again, a great, great plant for fall interest if you're looking to incorporate some of that into your garden. Hopefully it's focusing on that. So this is the Floral Berry Pinot St. John's wort, which we've also talked about in prior videos, but I feel it warrants an inclusion in this video because we are late in October now, almost to Halloween, and the plant is still flowering. It's put on a second show of flowers with me having done nothing to do that. This plant just did it on its own, and of course it has the gorgeous berries, kind of like a reddish, corally yellow orange. So could you imagine what a bunch of these planted together would look like in the fall garden? I think it would be absolutely gorgeous. This is a 3x3, so again, easy to tuck into a small garden space. So as a runner-up, I'm going to include crab apples. These just grow wild on my property, which is why I'm including this as a runner-up. Now, obviously you can buy all sorts of crab apples in nurseries and online, but because I have not bought these just grow wild on my property, I'm going to consider this a runner-up. But you can see the beautiful berries, fruit. I'm not sure what kind of crab apples these are. There are clearly two different kinds because this one has a different leaf and bigger berries than that one. So maybe someone at some point planted these here when the property was vacant, or when the lot was vacant. But because of the beautiful fruit, I would consider this great as a fall interest plant. Now, I don't know how long these berries are going to last. A lot of them are falling, and I suspect that these are going to provide food for birds and other critters, which is absolutely fine. But at this time of the year, they are absolutely laden. And they look really, really pretty. So if you want some beautiful berry laden trees on your property for fall, crab apples might be an option. All sorts of hybrids that you could purchase too to fit any property. Now this is an Erie viburnum. It is not a native viburnum. It can get quite large, but this has had these beautiful, almost glowing red berries on it since probably August. This is late October. Again, just a beautiful, beautiful shrub that you can add to your garden for fall interest. Now this one can get quite large. I believe it is a wider than it is a taller growing shrub. So I think it can get 10 to 12 feet wide, 8 feet tall. So if you have the space for that, can you imagine if it were completely and totally covered in berries? Now, I'm not exactly sure how easy this is going to be able to see. This is a Diane witch hazel. I believe it's called Diane. No, this is Vincent's Red. This is a hybrid of a native, and it does have pretty yellowy red flowers. You can see them. They're kind of yellowy, orangey, red. I mean, any witch hazel is going to have flowers at this time of the year. They bloom anywhere from late fall in through late winter. But if you're looking for some fall interest plants, again, a witch hazel might be the one for you. We're going to have Tiger Eye Sumac as a runner-up because I feel like they're in a little bit of transplant shock. We planted these just a month or two ago, and so they're losing their leaves quickly, but you can see the beautiful color. Brilliant orange and yellow. So again, a really pretty plant that you can add to your garden for fall interest, but a runner-up for me because I feel like they're looking a little worse for the wear just because of the transplant shock. But they're definitely dressed for the spooky season, don't you think? So thanks for coming along with me today. I hope you found this interesting and that you can incorporate some of these gorgeous plants into your gardens for beautiful fall interest. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Consider leaving a comment and subscribing. See you in the next one. Bye.